The spaceport tavern was crowded that evening. Ships from every corner of the galaxy had arrived to trade, refuel, or rest. Humans were rare here, just a handful scattered among thousands of alien faces. The air smelled of strange spices, burning, fuel, and the sharp taste of metal. The human sat at a corner table, his back against the wall, sipping the cheapest drink he could afford. He was tired from a long journey. His ship was old, patched together with scraps, and it needed repairs. Before he could fly again, he was not looking for trouble. All he wanted was some quiet, but trouble had already seen him. The tavern door opened with a hiss, and the room went silent. Everyone turned to look. A tall, alien woman stepped inside, wore a long silver cloak, her head covered with a veil that glowed faintly under the dim lights. The guards at the door bowed to her, and even the drunkest aliens lowered their eyes in respect. Oh, she was clearly someone important. Her glowing eyes scanned the room slowly. Then, to everyone's shock, she walked directly toward the human. The human frowned. He didn't know her, or did he? She stopped in front of his table, her voice soft but sharp, like music mixed with steel. "Do you know who I am, human?" Tavern froze. Forks and cups hung in the air. Aliens whispered in their strange tongues. A noble addressing a human? Impossible. Insulting. Dangerous. The human looked up, meeting her glowing eyes. He searched her face, but he didn't recognize her. "I don't," he said honestly. For a long moment, silence pressed on the room. Then the woman lowered her veil. Her skin was pale silver, her hair flowing like liquid night. She was breathtaking beautiful in a way that made the human's chest tighten. But beauty wasn't what shocked him. It was the familiarity in her eyes. She leaned closer and whispered words that made his heart stop. "I'm the girl you used to give candy to." The human's mind spun. He remembered a dusty outpost on a desert planet years ago. He'd been a younger man, struggling with his small ship, hauling supplies for credits. One day, a little alien child had followed him. She was skinny, hungry, and her clothes were torn. Out of pity, he had given her a piece of human candy from his pocket. She had never seen sugar before. Her eyes had lit up with joy as if he had given her a treasure, and now, years later, she stood before him. Not a child, but a grown woman, powerful, radiant, and dangerous. "You," he muttered, almost disbelieving. Her lips curved into the faintest smile, but her eyes were serious. "Yes, human. You saved me when I was nothing. That sweetness has never left my memory. I swore that if I ever found you again, I would never let you go." Whispers spread through the tavern like fire. The aliens muttered in anger, confusion, and shock. Why does the princess know a human? Why does she speak of loyalty? The human's chest tightened. Princess? Did she mean? Before he could ask, heavy footsteps echoed. From the other side of the tavern, armored guards approached. They wore the crest of the royal house. Weapons glowed, and their faces were twisted with suspicion. One of them pointed at the human. "Your Highness, step away from that creature. He is beneath you." The alien beauty turned her head slowly, her silver cloak shifting like flowing water. Her voice was calm, but her words cut like a blade. "Do not call him beneath me. This human gave me hope when no one else would." Gasps filled the room. The guard flinched, but did not lower his weapon. The human felt dozens of alien eyes on him, filled with hate and jealousy. He was suddenly aware of the danger he was in. He wasn't just a stranger anymore. He was the center of a royal scandal. The human forced himself to stand. His hands were steady, though his heart was racing. He didn't understand why she had chosen to reveal this in public. Was this a trap, or was she truly grateful? "Why now?" he asked quietly, his voice almost lost in the tense silence. "Why? Tell me this." "Here." Her glowing eyes locked on his, unwavering. "Because the time has come. I am no longer the child who needed candy. I am the woman who must make a choice. And I choose you." The tavern exploded with voices. Some shouted, in disbelief, some in fury, and some in fear. The guards tightened their circle. The human realized his life had just changed in a way he could never have imagined. He wanted to walk away, to return to his broken ship and his quiet life. But something in her eyes, something both fierce and fragile, kept him rooted. The alien beauty extended her hand toward him. Her fingers trembled slightly, though her face remained calm. "Come with me, human. There is no going back. Not for you, and not for me." The human stared at her hand. In that moment, memories of the little girl eating candy and the dust mixed. With the image of the powerful woman before him, he didn't know whether to feel fear, pride, or confusion. But he did know one thing: this was only the beginning. The tavern did not breathe until she moved. When the alien beauty turned and offered her hand to the human, the room found its voice again: sharp whispers, angry hisses, the scrape of chairs, the thud of boots. The royal guards formed a wall of metal, eyes fixed on the man as if he were a bomb that might explode at any second. "Walk with me," she said. He did not take her hand, but he walked beside her. It felt safer, that Wayner, enough to speak, far enough to think. They stepped out of the smoky door into the neon blue night of the spaceport. Lights ran along the ground like rivers. Shuttles rose and fell like slow stars. The air was cooler out here, but the human skin still burned with the heat of every watching eye. A crowd gathered around them as they moved along the glass. Some aliens bowed to her. Others spat at the human's boots. The guards pushed the people back, but the whispers kept following. "Why a human? Shame on the royal line. He is nothing." The human felt the words like stones against his back. He kept his eyes forward. He thought of his ship, the broken engine, the cracked canopy, and he wondered if he would ever see it again. The alien beauty glanced at him through the thin veil that hid part of her face. Her voice was soft. "I do not answer them. They feed on anger." She lifted a hand, and the guards opened a path through the mess of bodies and light. They entered a quiet district near the royal docks. The buildings curved like shells. Water fell in thin curtains from high walls, making soft music in the air. The guard stopped at a tall gate marked with a silver cresta circle with a star inside it. She held her palm to the lock. It read the marks on her skin and opened with a gentle sigh. Inside was a garden under glass. The ceiling arched above them like a clear ocean. Strange trees grew in careful rows, their leaves shining like coins. Bioluminescent flowers lit their path. The door sealed behind them, and the noisy city faded to a memory. "Leave us," she told the guards. The captain of the guard lowered his head, unsure. "Your Highness, leave us," she repeated. Cold now, the guards obeyed. The door whispered shut again, and the garden belonged to the two of them. For a moment, neither spoke. The human listened to the water falling in a silver thread into a pool. He noticed small fish that looked like drifting sparks. He looked at her veil and then at her eyes. It had questions, too many questions. But the first one came out small. "Who are you really?" She lifted the veil and set it aside on a stone bench. Without it, her face was no longer distant royalty. It was a face with history cheekbones strong from discipline, a mouth that knew how to hide pain, eyes that remembered hunger. She let the cloak fall from one shoulder and turned her wrist up to the moonlight, filtering through the glass. A faint emblem there glowed royal ink, bonded to the skin. "The proof of a bloodline. My house calls me Princess Naira," she said, "but I know myself by another name. I am the girl you gave candy to, the girl who learned sweetness from a stranger." The human studied the emblem, then the pale scar that cut across it. "Princesses do not carry scars like that," he said. "Princesses are not supposed to live in alleys either," Naira replied, not unkindly. "I was born low. Then I was taken in, raised behind this glass, polished until I shone. The scar is my only proof that I did not imagine the old days." She reached beneath her collar and drew out a small square shape tied to a chain. It was a flattened, wrapper-folded, neat edges worn smooth by years of being touched and retouched. She placed it in his hand. "I kept it," she said simply. "I learned the markings. I learned the script of your people. I found the ship manifests where humans sold this candy near the desert outpost. I read 100 names until I found yours in a docking log. I looked for you in every port after that. He turned the tiny square over again and again. The letters were faint, but still there. He felt strange proud and embarrassed at the same time. I didn't save anyone, he said, looking up. It was just a sweet. In my culture, Naira said, to give sweetness to a starving child is a vow. We call it the sweet debt. It means, let your life not be bitter while I remember it. It means, I will return sweetness when I have enough to share. She breathed out slowly. Now I have enough. Enough power. Enough voice. Enough to return what was given. You do not owe me a kingdom, the human said. His voice came out softer than he meant. I am not a hero. I know, Naira said. That is why I trust you. Heroes always ask for a throne. You asked for nothing. You even forgot my face. That is honesty of a painful kind. A soft chime sounded somewhere behind the tree's 3 notes, then silence. Naira's eyes flicked toward the sound and hardened. What is that? The human asked. A summons, she said. My brothers want you brought to them. They will not be gentle. So we run? Oh, he said. She shook her head. We prepare. Naira led him along the path to a low pavilion. Inside were benches and simple tools gardening. Blades, a long-handled rake, a coil of twine, a maintenance wrench left beside an irrigation valve. She pointed to the cloak she had set aside. Wear that. You'll hide your shape. In this she displayed a small vial, scent mask. It will confuse the guards for a few minutes if it comes to it. Humans have a different trail. They track it. The human did as she asked. The cloak was light and cool against his skin. He watched her move with quick, controlled motions, every gesture planned. She had grown into a person who could command a city and yet still remember a small wrapper on a chain. He cleared his throat. Why me, Naira? Out of all the humans, why choose the one with a broken ship and no name in your court? 'Cause you saw me when I was nothing, she said. And because the court believes humans are useful only. As tools or threats, I need a witness who is neither. I need someone who can stand and not ask to own me, and not fear to contradict me. I need an anchor. He was quiet for a long second. Finally, he nodded once. All right, we'll walk. With you, but I will speak if I think you are wrong. Naira's mouth made a small shape of surprise, then a real smile. Good. I should not be followed by a shadow. The door at the edge of the garden hissed. The human saw the captain of the guard step in, helmet off, eyes cautious. He opened his mouth to announce himself. A thin streak of light crossed the air. Naira moved faster than thought. She turned and brought her bracer up. The dart struck the metal with a hard ping and fell into the grass, smoking. The captain cursed and dove behind a pillar. Another dart cut the air. Human did not think. He grabbed the maintenance wrench. From the valve and swung. The dart cracked against the metal and clattered away. He lunged toward the shadow near the water curtain and struck with the wrench. Something yelped. A cloaked figure stumbled into the open. The captain of the guard was already there, tackling the assassin. The alien writhed, teeth bared, mask torn away. On his throat, a tattoo glowed 3 lines, each ending in a hook. Naira's face went cold. My brother's mark, she said. The assassin spat. The human dies before the selection rite. Hey. Captain struck him silent. Guards poured in now, answering the emergency beacon. They dragged the assassin away. The garden's soft light suddenly felt like stage light, and the human felt every eye snapping to him again as target, as excuse, as prize. Naira picked the dart from the ground and held it to the moonlight. Sleep venom, she said. Meant to kill? Meant to carry? She looked at the human. They wanted you alive. For what? To shame me, she said. To show I cannot protect what I choose. She closed her fist around the dart until her knuckles went white. Then she opened her hand and set the dart gently on the stone. No more running, she said, as if speaking to herself. No. More being the girl behind the mask. She walked to the bench, took up the veil, and held it over the water. The human thought she would fold it away. Instead, she let it go. The veil floated for a breath, then the waterfall pulled it down, until the silver cloth vanished into the pool. The soft music of falling water went on. The human watched her face in the pale light, without the veil, without the mask. She looked younger and older at the same time, young in courage, old in the weight on her shoulders. "What happens now?" he asked. Noya lifted her chin. "Now, we go to the Hall of Mirrors. Before the selection right begins, I will make my claim in front of the council. I will use my right of shelter to name you under my protection. They will try to twist the law. They will say humans cannot be chosen. But I will stand, and if they refuse, they will not refuse," she said. Then, after a heartbeat, honest, they will stall, threaten, and plot, and after that, they may demand a trial. Trial of what kind? Naira met his eyes. Of worth. The chime sounded again, 5 notes this time, urgent and bright. The captain stepped forward, breathing hard. "Your Highness, the council doors are open. Your brothers are already seated." They sent riders into the lower rings. "The streets will be unkind." Naira nodded. She turned to the human and held out her hand again. It shook just a little, and he saw that she did not try to hide it now. "Walk with me," she said. He looked down at the tiny wrapper on its chain in his other hand. For a second, he saw a dusty alley, a small girl, eyes wide, sugar melting, on her tongue like a star. He tucked the chain back into her palm and closed her fingers over it. "I'm not a hero," he said. "You are human," she replied. "That is enough." They stepped out of the garden into the bright mouth of the city. The night had thickened. Drums beat somewhere in the old quarter. The crowd outside the gate was larger now, faces in the glow, banners like tongues of fire. Guards formed a moving wall as the pair advanced. Voices rose, some cheering, some cursing, most waiting to see a show of power. Nara did not put the veil back on. She held her head high and walked as if the path were built for her feet alone. The human matched her stride. Ahead, across a bridge of polished stone, the Hall of Mirrors lifted into the sky, all glass and light and sharp lines. It reflected the city in 1,000 broken pieces. In the center window, a shape moved broad shoulders, a crown like a blade, watching. Naira squeezed the human's hand once, hard enough to hurt. "My brother," she said. "He will smile. Do not trust the smile." They reached the base of the stairs. The drums stopped. The doors of the hall opened without a sound. Like a breath of cold air rolled out, smelling of metal and law. Naira stepped forward into that breath. The human took one more look at the city behind them, the ships, the neon, the living river of Izand, then followed her inside. The mirrors swallowed them, and the mask at last was gone. The Hall of Mirrors was not built for comfort. Its high walls rose like ice, polished so smooth that every step, every breath, every flicker of light was reflected 100 times. The human felt small walking through the entrance, but the alien Princess Nira walked with steady pride. Her silver cloak flowed behind her, and her chin was raised. She carried the weight of 1,000 eyes, but did not bow to them. At the far end of the hall, the council sat. 12 habacked chairs formed a crescent around the throne in the middle. On that throne sat her eldest brother, Lord Varen. His crown was sharp as blades, his eyes cold as stone. He smiled when he saw them, but it was the kind of smile that hid knives. "Little sister," Varun's voice echoed across the chamber. "You finally returned to us, bringing—" His gaze slid over the human like one might glance at dirt on the floor. "A guest," the council chuckled. The human felt the sound scrape his bones. But he stood tall beside Naira. She had asked him not to flinch, and so he did not. Naira's voice was calm but strong. "This is no guest, brother. This is the human who once gave me life when I had none. I stand before you to invoke the right of shelter. He is under my protection." The council erupted in disbelief. The words hissed and twisted through the air like flames. Some banged their staffs against the ground, Others leaned forward with mocking grins. A few even looked afraid, as if Naira had broken some unspoken chain. Varen raised a hand, silencing them, his eyes locked on hers. Do you even remember what you say, sister? To claim right of shelter is to place your honor, your bloodline, your very name on the line. For a human, his smile grew thinner. You shame us. The human shifted uncomfortably, but Naira's hand brushed his wrist. A silent command. Do not speak. She stood straighter. I remember. I also remember the dust of the streets. I remember being a child with nothing. And I remember a human offering me a piece of candy when my own people would not even give me water. Her words carried through the chamber. Some scoffed, others leaned forward, curious, or only laughed, low and sharp. A piece of sugar? He said, This is the weight you bring into my hall. This is the treasure that makes you stand against your brothers. Naira reached into her cloak. Slowly, she pulled out the tiny, worn candy wrapper. She held it up, its faded human letters glowing faintly under the hall's light. Her voice softened, but it struck harder than a shout. This is not sugar, she said. This is memory. This is kindness. When you are starving, one sweet bite can mean hope. When you are broken, a stranger's hand can mean survival. You call it nothing, brother, because you have never known hunger. The words hung in the hall. For the first time, some of the council looked uneasy. The human's chest tightened as he listened. He remembered the moment too well. He hadn't thought much of it at the time. A little girl, eyes wide, too thin for her age. He had felt sorry and handed her a small sweet, the last in his pocket. He had forgotten it until now. Yet for her, it had been a promise that carried her into the woman she became. Varen leaned forward, his crown catching the light. So this is your weapon? A memory? You think the council bends 2 stories? Naira's eyes hardened. Stories, truth. Varen slammed his hand against the arm of the throne. The sound cracked like thunder. Enough. If you insist on binding yourself to this creature, then prove his worth. The right of shelter demands it. He must face the trial of blood. Gasps filled the chamber. Even the council members who hated humans looked startled. The trial of blood was not a game, it was survival against beasts, warriors, and fate itself. Naira's hand clenched into a fist. He is not your toy. He is your claim, Varen snapped, and claims must be tested. Perhaps you wish to admit your shame and return him to the streets? The human felt the weight of every eye. His stomach churned. He was no warrior, not like these alien nobles. He had fought battles of survival, yes, but not in arenas. Still, he could not stand silent any longer. He stepped forward. His voice was steady, though his heart thundered. I'll face it. Naira turned on him, eyes wide. No, yes, he said. I gave you candy once because it was all I had. If this trial is the cost of standing beside you, then I'll give this too. For a heartbeat, the hall went quiet. Then the council roared with laughter, voices bouncing off the mirrored walls. A human daring to face the trial. To them, it was comedy. But Varen's smile faded, just slightly. He leaned back, studying the human as if he were a puzzle. Very well, he said, the trial will be held at dawn. Guards stepped forward, moving to escort the human away. Naira caught his arm. Her fingers were trembling now, though her face remained composed. She leaned close, whispering so only he could hear. They want you dead. They will send monsters. Tricks, poison. This is not a test. It is an execution. The human looked into her eyes. For the first time, he saw fear there not for herself, but for him, and that made him stand taller. Then let them come, he whispered back. If I survived a desert with nothing but broken tools, I can survive this too. I won't let your memory be mocked. Naira's breath caught. For a moment, she saw not the man from her memory, but someone far larger, someone the council could not control. Varen's voice boomed again. Take him. Let him rest his final night before the trial. The guards moved in, but the human did not resist. He only looked back once as they dragged him toward the prison cells. Naira stood motionless in the center of the hall, her cloak shimmering under the cold mirrors. She looked at the small wrapper still in her hand and closed her eyes. Her whisper was barely a breath. "Candy gave me hope. Now may it give you strength." Night in the palace moved like a quiet animal. Pressed its soft paws against doors, breathed through vents, and watched from the corners where the lamps did not reach. The human sat on a stone bench in a narrow cell below the hall of mirrors. The walls were smooth and bright, but the light was weak. The cell showed his face in a warped way, as if the stone remembered every fear it had swallowed. Dawn would bring the trial of blood. For now, the night tested him first. He ran his fingers along the floor. The stone was cool, almost wet. Drops fell from a pipe in the ceiling. Tap, tap, steady as a clock. He closed his eyes and let the sound mark time. His breathing slowed. He did not want to sleep. He remembered Naira's warning. They would not be gentle. It would not even be fair. Footsteps came down the hall. Slow. Careful. A small figure stopped outside the bars and kept its head low. A soft voice spoke. "Water, prisoner?" The human stood but did not step close. "Slide it," he said. A clay cup scraped along the floor to his feet. He did not drink. He tilted it and watched the liquid. It made a thin film on the surface. Too smooth, too still. He dipped a finger and touched it to his tongue. Bitter, sweet, then numb. He smiled without humor and poured it back onto the stone. "I'm sorry," the small figure whispered. "They told me to make sure you slept. If you did not, the next cup would be worse. Why warn me?" he asked. The figure lifted its head. It was a young servant, no older than 15 human years, with a pattern of light on the brow that marked him as palace-born. "I used to watch the outer gates," the servant said. "I saw a princess lift a child from the gutter once. Was kind. Tonight she walked through the city with her head high and no veil. She is the same. I don't want her to lose." The human nodded. "Then help me once more. Tell me what they plan." The servant swallowed. "The arena floor tilts," he said. "It looks flat, but it slides to the drains. The beast they will use hunts sound. The mirrors above will show copies of you. The copies will make fake echoes. The beast will learn, and then it will stop listening. It will smell. They say humans smell different." "Lead?" the human asked. "To the old irrigation lines under the garden," the boy said. "But they are sealed with valves. Only the northern gate has a maintenance panel." He looked around, scared of the walls. "The mirrors listen here. I should go." The human nodded again. "You have done enough. Walk slow. Do not look back." The servant left with careful steps. The human watched the last shadow of his foot vanish. He poured the drugged water into the drain groove and listened. The tap, tap, tap from the pipe changed when the liquid ran. The sound moved faster near the north side of the cell. He smiled. Even lies made truths if you listened long enough. He searched the cell with patient hands. The bench was built in too. The wall, the ring bolt for a chain, had no chain. The door hinge had 3 pins. He pushed at the bottom pin with his thumb until the nail hurt. It did not move. He lay on the floor and used the clay cup's rim as a lever. The pin rose a finger's width, then more. He worked slowly, so the sound of metal against stone stayed. Under the drip of the pipe, finally the pin came free. He wrapped it in the cloth from his sleeve so it would not shine. A shadow crossed the outer hall. He froze. A second shadow followed, tall and thin. No footsteps, only a soft slide like a knife across silk. The lock whispered. The door opened a breath, then paused. A smell of cool smoke entered, and the room grew colder. A figure slid in, wearing a skin-tight gray suit that ate the light, no crest, no royal mark. The eyes were covered with a thin, white film. The figure's hands held a cord that glimmered. The human did not wait for the cord to find his throat. He threw the clay cup to the far corner. It shattered with a crack. The figure flicked towards the sound like a fish, fast, trained to kill the loudest thing first. In that one step, the human moved too low, hard, pushing, not delicate at all. He drove his shoulder into the figure's knees. They hit the floor together. The cord snapped like a hungry animal where his neck had been a moment before. He rolled away. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Grabbed the hinge pin and stabbed at the cord hand. The assassin hissed and let go. The human brought the pin down again, not on flesh, but on the thin white film over the eyes. The film split. The figure flinched, blind on one side. The human scrambled for the door, kicked it open with all his weight, and slammed it back into the assassin's arm. Bone cracked. The cord fell limp. The human stood in the hall, chest heaving. The assassin lay on the floor, breathed fast, one eye bleeding milky tears. "You die at dawn?" the figure whispered. "We were only to make sure you arrived weak. Tell your paymaster I'm stubborn," the human said. He dragged the assassin inside and shut the door without locking it, leaving the body in plain sight. Let the next shadow think the job was already done. He took the cord and wrapped it twice around his forearm, then tucked the hinge pin under the cord like a short, straight blade. It was ugly work, but it would do. Above, the city's drums beat once, a deep warning from far-off towers. A bell answered one note, then silence. He thought of Naira and the hard line of her jaw when she let the veil fall into the water. He felt a strange steadiness fill his chest. In another part of the palace, Naira climbed a spiral stair that no one used. She walked past records sealed in glass and bones of ancient rulers wired like art. At the top, a door weighted old wood, polished by hands long dead. She pressed her palm against it. It did not open. She did not move her hand. "Hi, Archivist," she said. "I invoke the reading of law." The wood burned under her skin, then cooled. The door opened. Inside, an elder sat by a round table, eyes like gray stone and hair like poured silver. The High Archivist wore no crown, only a thin chain with 12 small keys. "You ask late, child," the elder said. "The council does not like late truth." "I ask because they plan to twist the right of shelter," Naira replied. "Tell me what the old words say." The archivist turned a page in a book that smelled of rain. The letters moved as if alive. "Shelter grants 3 things," the elder said. 1. The claimant may stand beside the sheltered when law is spoken. 2. The sheltered may name one tool of their choice if it is not a weapon of war. 3. Before the first blood, a single witness may speak for the sheltered. Naira's heartbeat slowed. A tool. A witness. She saw the northern gate in her mind, saw the panel behind it, saw the water line she had walked 1,000 times. The archivist watched her face. "They will not let you reach him." "Then I will reach the arena," Naira said. "And I will speak before the first blood." The elder closed the book. "Your brothers hunt like men who fear the dark. Take care. The law has sharp edges on both sides." Naira bowed and turned to go. At the door she stopped. "Thank you," she said, "for keeping the words alive." "I did not keep them for your brothers," the elder replied. "Go below in the cells." The air shifted. Human felt a breeze on his cheek, faint as a sigh. He looked up. A moth of light slid through the bars, its wings made of thin glass that caught the dim lamp glow and broke it into tiny stars. The moth circled him once, then settled on his wrist. Its wings folded. A line of simple text glowed on his skin. Floor tilts. Do not chase. Make IT chase. Find north gate panel. Turn valve. Flood. Trust the echo. Nachi breathed out a small laugh. It sounded like someone else. Touched the letters, and they faded. He spent the last hours of the night making what he could from nothing. He braided strips from his cloak, lining into a rope, tied the rope to the door bar in a loop he could throw. He practiced the throw in the shadow where the guards could not see. Again and again, until the rope whispered the same path each time. He tapped the walls with the hinge pin and listened for the hollow place that marked the north side. He rubbed dust between his fingers and tossed it into the air, watching where it drifted. The flow pulled toward the north, as if the cell itself breathed that way. Footsteps came again, louder now, official. The captain of the guard stood there with 4 soldiers. He looked at the broken clay on the floor, at the assassin inside the cell. At the human's steady eyes. "You did not sleep," the captain said. You did not want me to, the human replied. The captain's mouth twitched, almost a smile that was not allowed to be a smile.
"How done you done," he said.
Walk. They marched. Through corridors that swallowed sound, mirrors watched them from the walls. The human tested the echo with a hum in his throat. Sometimes the sound came back, sometimes it did not. He had learned enough now to trust the places that answered. They reached the gate of first blood. It was a high arch with iron leaves and a deep groove cut across the stone where years of doors had closed. Beyond it, the arena waited a wide circle under a sky of broken glass. He could smell old sand, and cold metal and something else. The temps of a beast. The captain halted. "By law," he said, not looking at the human, "the sheltered may name one tool. Speak it." The human remembered the wrapper in Naira's hand, the sugar on a child's tongue, the servant's whisper, the moth's small light. He looked up at the mirrors. He looked down at the groove where doors had cut stone. Then he spoke simply. "A valve key," he said. "Maintenance size." The captain did not flinch. He signaled. A guard brought a short iron key with teeth. Like a small sun, it was heavy in the human's palm. Not a weapon of war, a tool, a promise. The doors trembled. The drums above the city rolled like thunder. The human closed his fingers around the key, stepped toward the light. Enemies had moved all night in the shadows. But dawn had its own sharp teeth. He was ready to bite back. The gates of the arena groaned open like the jaws of some ancient beast. Light poured in, harsh and white, reflecting off the glass dome that rose over the circle of sand. The human stepped forward, the maintenance valve key heavy in his palm, its edges biting into his skin. Around him, the roar of thousands of alien voices thundered, a wave of sound so vast it felt alive above in the high seats of the council. Princess Neera sat beside her brother's throne. Her hands were clasped tightly in her lap, but her face showed only calm dignity. She could not reveal her fear. Not here, not now. The trial of blood was underway, and she had staked her honor on this human's survival. The announcer's voice rose, deep and cruel. "By the ancient law of shelter, the human stands before us. He carries one tool, faces the beast of silence." A gate opposite him opened with a shriek of iron. At first, nothing came out. The crowd hushed. Then he felt it before he saw it, the pressure of its breath, the scrape of its claws. It crawled into the arena, low to the ground, skin black as oil scales that reflected the mirrors above like shards of broken night. Its head was wide, eyeless, with nostrils that flared as it tasted the air. Its mouth opened, rows of teeth clicking like blades. It was beautiful in a terrible way. And it was hungry. The human gripped the key, tighter. He remembered Naira's moth's message. The floor tilts. Do not chase. Make it chase. Find north gate panel. Turn valve, flood. Trust the echo. The beast sniffed and let out a soundless hiss, lowered its head and began to crawl toward him, silent. As falling dust, the human took a slow breath. The crowd thought he was trembling from fear, but he was listening. His boots scraped against the sand. Sound echoed faint, strange, bent by the mirrors above. He remembered the servant's warning. The mirrors would make false echoes to confuse the beast, so he stayed still. Perfectly still, the beast froze. Two nostrils flaring, it tilted its head, confused by the silence. For a moment, it almost looked blind and harmless. Then it lunged. The human moved. He threw himself sideways, rolling across the sand, the beast's jaws snapping shut, where his chest had been a heartbeat ago. The crowd screamed. Some laughed. Some shouted for blood. The floor shifted under his weight, tilting slightly toward the drains. He felt it. The sand slid, faint but steady. He scrambled up, scanning the arena edge for the northern gate. Mirrors above showed 10 versions of it, each one a trick. He needed the real one. He closed his eyes. He tapped the valve key against the sand once, twice, 3 times. The sound bounced back from the walls, but only from one direction did. It returned clear and true. North, he ran. The beast roared not with sound, but with motion, slamming its body against the floor. The sand trembled, the human stumbled, but kept moving. He reached the wall and found the panel a square of iron set into the stone, nearly invisible. He jammed the key into the slot and twisted. The beast was coming. He heard its claws now. Ripping into the sand, the valve resisted. It hadn't been moved in years. He put his whole weight into it. It groaned, then turned, metal grinding. A hiss filled the arena floor. From the drains, water surged thin at first, then stronger, flooding across the sand. The beast froze, nostrils flaring again. The water carried his scent everywhere, confusing. Its sense of direction. The crowd gasped. The human stepped back, letting the rising water reach his boots. He tapped the valve key again against the wall. The echo bounced and danced on the ripples. The beast whipped its head, chasing the sound. Jaws snapping at empty air. "Make it chase," he whispered. He struck the key harder, then threw it across the floor. It clanged against the stone, echoing like a bell. The beast roared without. Soundon lunged after it, body sliding across the wet sand. Its massive weight carried it forward, too fast, too blind. The human waited until the last second, then stepped aside. The beast slammed into the wall with the force of an avalanche. The mirrors above shattered in one place, raining shards of glass. The crowd erupted in chaos, some cheering, some jeering, some calling for another round. But the beast did not rise again, lay half submerged, stunned and broken. The announcer hesitated. The law was clear. The human had survived. The trial was his. But the council wanted blood. Lord Varen stood, raising one hand. His voice carried over the noise like steel.
Not enough.
A beast is nothing. Let him face a warrior. Naira shot to her feet. You twist the law. The trial of blood was against the beast, and he has won. Varan smiled, sharp as a knife. One beast, one warrior. Both are blood. Let us see if your human bleeds as sweet as you claim. The crowd howled approval. The gate on the east side opened, and a warrior stepped through, 8 feet tall. Armored in scales of gold, carrying a spear longer than the human's entire body. His eyes locked on the human, and he grinned. The human's chest tightened. He had no key now, no weapon. Only his rope of cloth and the cord wrapped around his arm above. Naira gripped the edge of her seat, her nails cutting into the wood. She had known her brothers would cheat, but not this fast, not this cruelly. The warrior lowered his spear and began to advance. The crowd grew silent, hungry for the kill. The human stood alone in the flooded sand, water reflecting his face, blood pounding in his ears. He whispered to himself, not for courage but for memory. One sweet bite gave her hope. Maybe one trick will give me a chance. And as the warrior came closer, the human smiled, not in defiance, but in calculation. He was already planning his next move. The waterlogged arena smelled of iron, sweat, and fear. Shards of broken mirrors still glittered on the wet sand, catching the faint light from above. The beast lay silent, half submerged, its body broken against the wall. The crowd's roar had shifted from disbelief to wild hunger. They wanted more blood, and Varone, Naira's eldest brother, gave it to them. From the eastern gate the warrior stepped through. He was taller than any human, his shoulders wide enough to block the torchlight behind him. Golden armor curved across his body like the scales of a dragon. His helmet had 2 curved horns, and in his hands he held a spear so long its shadow reached the human's feet. Every step the warrior took rippled the shallow water. His eyes, glowing under the helm, never left the human. He grinned as if this was no trial but a feast. "Face him," Varen commanded, his voice slicing through the arena like a blade. The beast was not enough. Let the human prove himself against a true son of our house. Naira shot to her feet, fury breaking her composure. "You twist the trial? By law, he has one." Varan only smiled. "Law is what we say it is," the council murmured, some uneasy, some amused. But the crowd roared louder, drowning all sense of fairness. They wanted spectacle, and Varen knew it. The human stood ankle-deep in water, holding nothing but the cloth rope wrapped around his waist, and the assassin's cord tied around his arm. He had no spear, no shield, not even the valve key anymore. His chest rose and fell with each slow breath, but his eyes remained steady. The warrior spun his spear once, the air hissing as the tip cut through it. "You should kneel," he said, his voice deep and cruel. "It will be quicker." The human smiled faintly, not out of confidence, but because he had heard threats like that before. Pirates, slavers, mercenaries all had said the same before underestimating him. He remembered Naira's words, a tool. A witness, shelter grants them. He had his tool, the rope and cord, and he had a witness, Naira herself. But honor? That he would have to carve out with his own 2 hands. The warrior lunged, spear thrusting straight for the human's chest. The water splashed high, the crowd gasped, but the human twisted aside, barely fast enough. The spear point grazed his sleeve, tearing cloth but missing flesh. He grabbed the shaft, trying to yank it down, but the warrior's strength was like stone. The human was thrown back, hitting the sand hard, water rushing around his body. The warrior laughed. Weak, just as I expected. The human rose slowly, wiping blood from his lip. His body hurt, but his mind sharpened. "Don't fight strength with strength," he reminded himself. "Make a chase." He moved sideways, circling. His boots splashed deliberately, echoing against the dome. The warrior turned his head, nostrils flaring at the sound. For a heartbeat, the false echoes from the mirrors confused him. He thrust too early, striking only water. The crowd jeered. The human seized his chance, swung his rope loop, aiming for the spear. The cloth caught for a moment, but the warrior yanked it free and almost dragged the human off his feet. Still, the human smiled. He had tested the grip, measured the force. He knew now how much pull he would face. Another thrust came, aimed low this time. The human jumped aside, rolling through the water, and grabbed a shard of broken mirror. The glass cut into his palm, but he held it tight. Naira leaned forward from her seat, her breath caught in her throat. She wanted to cry out, to warn him, but she forced herself to stay silent, to interfere before the first blood would break the law. She had to trust him, just as he had once trusted her. The warrior charged again, this time with no hesitation. The spear whistled through the air, and the human ducked, raising the shard. He didn't aim for the armor, he aimed for the water. The shard struck, sending a spray of drops flashing upward. Catching the torchlight, the warrior flinched, blinded for half a heartbeat. That was enough. The human lunged forward, wrapping his rope around the spear's shaft. He twisted with all his weight, pulling the weapon down into the water. The warrior roared and yanked back, but the rope held. For the first time, the golden fighter stumbled. The crowd gasped. Iran's smile faltered. The human didn't let go. He used the cord around his arm like an anchor, digging his heels into the sand, pulling the spear sideways. The warrior lost balance again. The human saw his opening, leaped, driving the broken glass shard into the joint where armor met flesh just below the warrior's shoulder. Blood spurted, red mixing with the water. First blood had been drawn. The arena went wild. Some screamed in rage, others in awe. The law was clear now. The human had proven himself, had survived beast and warrior. The trial was his. But Varen rose to his feet, his voice thundering over the chaos. "No, this is no victory. This is trickery. Honor demands more." Naira slammed her hand against the railing, her voice sharp and fierce. "Enough. By law, the trial is ended. By blood, he has won." Her words carried, but Varen's glare silenced many. He raised his hand as if to strike her where she stood, but the council stirred uneasily. Even they could not deny the old words. The human stood in the water, chest heaving, rope still wrapped around his arm, shard dripping blood. He looked up at Varen, eyes hard. "You wanted a spectacle. You got it. You wanted proof. Here it is." The golden warrior stumbled back, clutching his shoulder, glaring with both fury and respect. He spat into the water and bowed his head slightly. "Not weak," he admitted. "Not prey." The crowd roared again. But now the sound was different, mixed with something dangerous. Admiration, respect, fear. Naira felt tears sting her eyes, though she did not let them fall. She rose, raising her voice above the storm. He gave me sweetness when I was bitter. He gave me hope when I had none. Today, he gives you proof that honor does not live in crowns or bloodlines, but in courage. The council shifted, uneasy. Varen's hand clenched the arm of his throne until it cracked. The human dropped the broken shard, letting it fall into the water. Stood tall, unarmed, but stronger than ever. He had faced the trial of blood. He had drawn first blood. He had earned his place. And yet deep inside, he knew this was not the end. Varen's eyes promised another trial, one far darker than beasts or warriors. The shadows of the palace still waited. The arena floor was silent now. The beast lay dead in the water. The golden warrior had stepped back, holding his bleeding shoulder, refusing to fight further. And the human drenched, bruised, but standing tall faced the entire council with nothing in his hands but a rope and his will. The crowd murmured in waves. Some still demanded more blood. Others had fallen strangely quiet, watching the human as though seeing something new, something unsettling. Respect was growing and fear with it. Princess Nira rose from her seat, her silver cloak gleaming under the broken mirrors above. Her voice rang out, sharp and clear. By the right of shelter, by the trial of beast, and by the trial of blood, he has proven himself. My claim stands. He is under my protection. The council shifted uneasily. Could not deny the law, not openly. Even Varen, who sat on the throne with his jaw tight, could feel the weight of tradition pressing against him. He forced a smile, but his eyes burned with rage. Protection? He sneered. A human deserves no crown of honor, no seat in our halls. What you call shelter, I call shame. Naira's gaze did not waver. Shame is forgetting kindness. Shame is mocking truth. He gave me sweetness when I was a child in dust. Today he has given us all the taste of honor. That is more than you, brother, have ever given. The chamber gasped. The crowd stirred, voices rising, some in shock, some in support. To insult. Lord Varen so openly was to invite his wrath, but Naira no longer cared. The human, still breathing hard, lifted his hand. His voice was quiet, but it carried through the water-soaked arena. I didn't come here to shame anyone, even come to fight. Years ago, I had nothing, but I gave what little I had, because sometimes the smallest thing can matter most. That was no crown, no throne, just a piece of candy. His words rippled through the hall, soft yet heavier than iron. Naira stepped forward, down the stairs of the council platform, until she stood in the shallow water of the arena. The silver cloak trailed behind her like light. She reached into her chest piece and drew out the small wrapper, worn smooth by years, folded with care. She held it up high. This, she said, her voice fierce, is not just paper. This is memory. This is promise. Human once gave me hope when all else was lost. Today he has proven that hope was not wasted. I owe him my life, my loyalty, my future. Let all of you witness it. She turned, and before the entire court, pressed the wrapper into his palm. Her hand lingered there, trembling slightly. This moment, our fates are bound. This is the candy promise. The crowd erupted, half in outrage, half in awe. Some shouted that it was forbidden, others that it was beautiful. The sound crashed against the dome like thunder. Varen rose to his feet, his crown catching the firelight. His voice was sharp with fury. This cannot stand. A princess binding herself to a human? You disgrace us all? Guards, but the golden warrior interrupted, stepping forward. His arm still bled, but his voice was steady. No, Lord Varen, the law was spoken. Blood was drawn. I faced him, and he bested me. I will not call this shame. The arena went silent again. A warrior of the royal house had admitted respect for a human. It was a wound deeper than any blade. Varen's hands trembled with rage, but the council members were divided now. Some whispered of rebellion, others of prophecy. None dared strike so openly against both the law and the will of the people. Naira turned to the human. Her voice soft now, meant only for him, though the entire arena strained to hear. You once gave Me sweetness without asking for anything. I return that gift now, but greater. You will not walk alone, human, not while I live. The human closed his fingers over the wrapper, feeling the fragile paper press into his skin. He had never expected this, never expected a simple act of kindness to lead to this moment. He looked into Naira's glowing eyes, saw the fierce loyalty. There, and for the first time, he believed it. He nodded slowly. Then I'll keep my promise too. As long as I breathe, you won't stand alone. The crowd shifted again. Respect was turning into something sharper loyalty, perhaps, or the beginnings of change. But in the shadows of the high throne, Varen leaned forward, his smile thin and dangerous. He had lost this battle, but his war was not over. His voice was a whisper only the mirrors seemed to hear. Candy melts, sister, and so will your human. The human and Naira stood together, hand in hand, in the center of the arena. The water around them reflected their figures like two unbroken flames. The crowd watched, the council plotted, and the future trembled on the edge of uncertainty. The candy promise had been made, and everyone in the Hall of Mirrors knew the galaxy would not forget it.